You know what I mean? They're gonna do like.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me fine?
Because
There's still some.
you can only
So
you can't put ABs back.
you're the convener, Okay, convene away.
We want to leave if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that together in my head.
Okay, so welcome everyone. This is our first Librarians Assembly business meeting of the 15-16 academic year. Before I welcome the steering committee so you guys can meet them all, because we have new members on the committee this year, I just want to mention that if you're here with us in Steenbach, the thousands of you that I see out there, there's UW-Madison Slow Food is having a lunch over in the Allen Centennial Gardens today, which is, which direction from where I am? That way. Oh, whoops, okay. This way. So,
oh, I'm turned around.
So it's this way. So that's happening today after the meeting. So if you're looking for lunch, you can go over there and visit them. That's a great movement. I want to also let everyone know where you can find our page. So if you go to the library staff page, which has been migrated to WordPress, and you go all the way down to the right where it says community, you're going to find a link to the Librarians Assembly. And so we have a lot of information here, past meeting minutes, events that are coming up, location and times of our business meetings, our committees, and of course about us. And for anyone who's maybe viewing for the first time, just a reminder who we are. We are serving as the Committee on Academic Staff Issues. We're the CASI for the academic staff of the GLS. So we are a forum where academic staff can address matters of professional concern and development within the campus libraries. So I'm going to put on the page here our roster, and if you guys don't mind, I know there's not, well, there are thousands of people here. So let's just, I just want to point everyone out who is on the steering committee this year. So we have Julie Ahrensdorf. Huh? No, just stand up. Yeah, okay. Craig Cook, who's over here. Beth Harper is here. Pamela O'Donnell. Raina Bloom. Stephen Fry has not made it in yet. And I'm Jessie Henderson, so I'm convening today. So these are who we are. These are the roles that we're taking on this year, and you can check us out here at any time. Does anyone who's in the room have an announcement that they'd like to share with anyone? Something that's happening, a new colleague who might be in the room or anything? Before we get jumped in? I guess not. Okay, so our first report today is going to be Nancy Graf Schultz with the admin report.
So most of what I had to say was in the newsletter that I believe you all received yesterday, but I'll just recap a little bit of that. We're making really good progress towards our $400,000+ that we had to save this year. We're down to about, everything's rounding, about $120,000 that we yet to have to realize in savings through the end of this fiscal year. When we know someone for sure is leaving or retiring, we enter that into our own created system, and it takes it out for the rest of the fiscal year. So we have a pretty good idea of where we stand. So this year there should be absolutely no problem. And so what we can actually do if by ending up in good shape this year is better position ourselves to go into next year. So the next year's cuts are on top of this year's. So it's kind of like dieting, right? The first 10 sometimes go easy, but it's the next 5 that kill you. So hopefully we're going to position ourselves much better to take on next year this year. And so that should hopefully ease our transition to get through next year. I'm not sure if there's any rumors that there's hiring freezes, but there's certainly not. You've seen the search and screens go out, so we are continuing to identify the critical positions we need to move forward on, and we are recruiting those positions. I asked Jessie for some ideas of what you wanted me to address today, and one of the things was the consolidation report. I'm not the best person to respond to that, so I'm just going to let you hear from Leslie and Ed on that and not address it. We've all heard on the news lately about the changes to the statewide civil service system and the changes to the test, and that when we dropped off into HR design, we kind of broke away. So we have exactly that now. We no longer use the state systems to give our university staff tests. In fact, right now, Karen Lemire is doing our first university staff recruitment where we are not using a given test, and we are creating our own system to vet the candidates. So we are already in that process. So when they talk about that, that doesn't affect campus, but it does affect all the other agencies, Department of Administration, you name it. So it is a large concern, obviously, for reasons. You don't want someone in a position of authority to hire all their family members, or, you know, so obviously it's a hotly debated topic, which it'll be interesting to see the outcome. Our system is very old. We've had the system, we've had the state of Wisconsin in place for many years. So even if there are some updates, they'd be interesting to see. Someone asked about impacts, where are the retirements attrition occurring the most. I really don't feel I can give that out because a lot of what I know is not public knowledge yet, and it's not my responsibility to announce retirements to the staff. It's either the supervisor or that individual, so I need to hold that in confidence, so I can't speak to that at the moment. How much of the cuts have been made of student budget cuts? So at the beginning of the year, we cut the student budget by a little over 100,000. That was off the top. So there's no additional cuts to the student budget this year, and graciously some units gave back large portions of money that they felt they could do without or rearrange their staffing patterns. And so we are getting through this year on what we planned at the beginning of the fiscal year. So there should be no surprises for anybody moving forward on their student lines. The question was, how much from university employee cuts, how much from academic staff cuts? I really don't think answering that question benefits anybody. I don't want to pit academic staff versus university staff, or we took more of the cuts than them. I'll remind all of you that we start every year in a budget deficit, and so one could argue that we have money in the wrong pot at the beginning of the year, and that's why the cuts look at that. So what we need to know is together, as a division, the amount we need to cut, and together we need to accomplish that goal. And like I said, each position is vetted individually. Whether it's university staff or academic, we have a full discussion on whether or not that position needs to be recruited. If it does, should it be changed somehow? So that's what really matters when someone leaves. So the interesting question to me is, now that the new HR system is in place, what are outstanding issues that have yet to be worked out from the GLS point of view? What are some of the changes that surprised me in the HR office? The interesting thing is campus is going to move forward on a, the word flew out of my head, compensation survey. They're hiring an outside consultant to move ahead on a compensation survey. And I'm not sure if you heard, but this all goes on the back of, did anybody hear anything about the Fair Labor Standards Act potentially changing, and how does that affect us? So I'll just give you a quick snippet on that, because if you care, you care. If you don't, you don't. The Fair Labor Standards Act currently says, and I'm not going to have the exact numbers in my head, but it's something slightly over $24,000 you have to earn in order to be considered exempt. The proposal that came forth and everybody gave feedback on, and now we're just waiting for the answer, is they upped it to $50,400, I believe. So they practically doubled it, right? So where that has implication, and we don't know all the rules yet, even if that's the number or how things are changing, we're all waiting, is that any academic staff on campus now, this isn't just the general library system, who would start below that threshold may need to be hourly instead of salary, or you would have to change them to that new threshold in order for them to be considered exempt. So the general library system would only be minimally affected. However, think of all the positions out there who start less than that, where they're funded on grants and everything else. That's where really things would get interesting for campus. There may be exemptions for higher education, teachers, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot is just, we're waiting to see how all of that plays out. That was a surprise to everybody. That was not planned for. And so we're all waiting, and we expect something early next year to come out to tell us how that's all gonna finish. The biggest change for us is the midpoint review, where we've been pushing people to do evaluations, and we're pretty well situated. We can all improve, and we're gonna have some training sessions coming up on writing better expectations and giving and receiving feedback. And in the very near future, I will announce those, and you can sign up for those. But the midpoint review is new to all of us, where it actually has to be signed and turned in. So Ann and I are also going to set up some additional trainings on the evaluation system, as well as changes in HR design, to help everybody get used to that new thing that they have to do midway through the year. Where we're struggling is that's just one more thing that we have to track, which we don't have the tools to track, right? So we have an Excel spreadsheet and we're clicking boxes, but to get the reminders out to all of you, which I'm sure you would find very helpful, saying it's 6 months, it's a year, we're just struggling with that at the moment. So that's something we're working on improving to make it easier for you to remember, and then to know that we've reminded you, because we all have so much on our plate.
Nancy, says all employees have to have this midpoint review?
All employees have to have this and it has to be, the difficulty is it has to be signed and then submitted to us for the file. So it's not this lengthy process that the annual review is. It can be, yes, we discussed our expectations, yes, we discussed our progress, sign. It doesn't have to be this overblown complex thing, but the fact that the document does have to be signed and back to the HR office is what adds another layer of complexity. I sure hope everybody is having meetings with their supervisor on a regular basis, that they're getting that regular feedback. And so, you know, once again, nothing in evaluation should be a surprise. It should just be a summary of what happened all throughout the year. Any other questions or something I didn't touch upon that you wanted me to? All right, thanks.
Thanks, Nancy. We didn't have any questions on the chat, did we? Craig? Somebody who's not reading the chat. Okay.
I don't see any here.
I wanted to add just one more announcement, was that for those of you here, we have sign-up sheets for the committees. You're going to hear from both the committees, and if anyone online is interested in joining committees, you can email Raina Bloom for professional concerns and Craig Cook or Stephen Fry for programming. And also there's donuts and coffee. Okay, so Julie Ahrensdorf is up next for the University Library Committee.
Okay, hello, my name is Julie Ahrensdorf. I think I would know most of the folks in the room. So this year I am taking over on the University Library Committee. We've only had one meeting so far this year. It was on September 15th. As the first meeting in the year, it was mainly just introductions, nothing much to report. As all of you saw, we've shared out the draft of the library's consolidation report. General feedback from the University Library Committee was positive to the report. They liked the way that it focused on libraries in the future and the direction the libraries were taking. There was a request to have an additional feedback meeting on the west side of campus, since the 2 meetings were in Memorial Library, so a third one was added. The only other feedback of note was they had requested clearer language about the number of libraries before and after consolidation, because the way that the report was drafted, it looked like here's the list of libraries, or the number of libraries, and here's how they might be categorized, but it didn't appear that there was any change before or after. So just some clarification requests. Other than that, I have nothing else to report. Any questions for me? Okay, I'll have more to report next time.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, so Ian Benton's going to report on the Academic Staff Assembly most recent meeting.
Let me just kind of pass out some notes, if you wouldn't mind just kind of distributing them forward and back. I'll let these work their way around the room while I start yakking. So hello, hello, hello. So I recently became the alternate for District 475. Tom was not able to make the last meeting, so I attended in his stead, took some notes. These will be emailed out shortly. I'm just kind of brought everything together, though this meeting occurred on September the 14th. So I'll try and follow this up with the notes to the rest of District 475 after today. So initially, We of course went through, took care of some normal business, approving of meeting minutes from May 11th and June 17th. We had a few guests speak to the assembly, in specific Mallory Musolf from the Madison Academic Staff Association, MASA, who wanted to highlight that academic staff are participating in a variety of events, but in specific October 28th, there is a Go Big Read Brown Bag for academic staff to discuss Just Mercy. That will be conducted from noon to 1 at Union South, so any academic staff who are interested in participating with others in discussion of Just Mercy are welcome to attend. But a brown bag is mandatory, and you should bring one. We also heard from Michael Moschicki. What was it? Mosicki,
Yeah.
Thank you. Who is our rep from the Academic Staff Professional Representation Organization, ASPRO. That was the first time that I had ever known what that acronym stands for all the way. So, Academic Staff Assembly is a rollicking good time. In specific, he brought to the table some legislation that's being dealt with at the state level, specifically 8305, which states that generally this bill prohibits certain sales and uses of fetal body parts derived from an unborn child aborted by induced abortion. So this particular bit of legislation that is on the table has direct implications for Madison's use of fetal tissues and stem cell research. So he provided some details about that, which is relevant to a resolution that was passed later, which I'll get to in a moment. He also indicated that of specific interest to ASPRO right now, I believe, and Trish, if I get any of this wrong, please help me out, that they have convened a technical college and 2-year campus combination committee, which will be focusing on some of the legislation, some of the discussions that are now happening about what the future might hold for the 2-year campuses and technical college system in the state. So ASPRO is looking at that. And he indicated that there may be some sick leave conversion rules changes, which I'm not familiar enough to speak on.
Yeah, the legislature, this is coming from the legislature, but it hasn't been voted on or anything, it's just talk. But right now it would only involve legislators and like local government employees, not state. But we're still keeping our eyes on that, because if that passes for them, it could at some point come to us. But so far that's not been proposed that it would affect state employees. So
thank you very much.
Yeah.
So of course ASPRO is our lobby. So many of the things that ASPRO deals with have not yet come to pass and are conversations that are in the mill within state government. So that's a good context to hold in our mind for ASPRO all the time. Following the report from Michael, we had some reports. ASEC indicated they have established an ad hoc committee on instructional titles, specifically to take a look at UW-Madison's titling study and what the titling study might mean for academic staff. They've been tasked specifically with looking at peer institutions and titling practices for academic staff outside of UW-Madison, where our peers up to. The Nominations and Elections Committee voted, or brought rather, a midterm election into which the Assembly voted for Jenny Heights, who has now joined that committee. The bulk of our discussion time in this particular meeting was taken up with point 5, the resolution regarding legislative restriction on fetal tissue research. There were a variety of people who spoke and discussed, including some more information from Michael Mosicki. And ultimately, the resolution, which I'll include with the notes and is available on the ASA site, was largely unchanged. Most of the discussion functioned around specificity of language versus generality of language. And again, since this is a piece of legislation that is in process, the Assembly voted. The Assembly erred on the side of general language at the recommendation of the ASPRO rep, because of the broader application to what the language might end up being in an official bill. So ultimately, the Assembly voted to make this resolution, which is opposed to the passage of this bill, which would limit the use of fetal stem cell lines at UW-Madison for research potentially. Finally, we had an address from Provost Mangelsdorf, in which she mentioned a few major points. These are my paraphrasings. So, of course, always nice to go directly to the provost's site and read her own words, take things directly from her. She talked a bit about the budgetary shortfalls and the methods that the UW was looking at to increase revenue as an overall thing. Now, these were not defined action plans. This was a person talking about general trends. So among those general trends, they were talking about increasing numbers of summer school by generating additional, I think she phrased it as kind of meaningful content within the continuing education sphere. So not ginning up classes just for the sake of ginning up classes, but looking at what do our communities of teachers and other business people, et cetera, need to participate in continuing education, and how do we fill that need? In terms of student debt, the campus is thinking about ensuring quick time to degree completion as a way to help students combat debt. I believe she was saying that the biggest determinant to higher debt is going over the 4 years. The longer you go, the more debt you're going to incur. Of course, the UW is thinking about how they assist students by making sure that degree completion stays on track. The Board of Regents has convened a Shared Governance and Tenure Committee, which is now looking at the UW system's policies on shared governance and tenure, now that those things are not law. So Provost Mangelsdorf seemed confident in the work that group was doing, but it's at its outset, so there's not much to report about what's been going on. And then she commented on the great number of dean positions that are open currently, a big point of transition. And finally, perhaps of interest to all of you, this notion that when it comes to open records requests on email, it is not a matter of state email servers, it is a matter of state business, and that open records requests can be made regardless of whether it is a Gmail account or your own personal private server or a wisc.edu address. So she urged you to keep that in mind when discussing business, and keep business in business accounts for simplicity's sake, and of course business as appropriate business. Did anybody have any questions about anything that was discussed in the ASA meeting? Anything I can elaborate on or refer to Tom? Yes.
Well, you said the titling study, that would just be on instructional titles.
I believe that the titling, and again, Trish, you can chime in here, but I believe that the titling study is UW-Madison wide. That would be, I believe that's the same outside company that you had mentioned, Nancy.
I think there's a couple things going on. That instructional titling, that's been an issue for a long time, because we have all these bizarre titles like associate, faculty, associate, which like no other university has. And the Faculty Senate has a problem with academic staff who teach using the word professor, so we're looking at other campuses to see what kind of titles they use. But in general, there's also going to be a titling and compensation study, because they're going to hire a company that's, since we have a new HR system, that's going to restructure a lot of that. So there may be some implications for that too, like maybe some changes in titles and salary ranges and stuff for that too. But that's forthcoming. That hasn't started yet.
I believe it's like a 2-year horizon to completion at this point.
But this committee is just dealing with instructional titles.
I think they might be looking at. I know they're currently looking at instructional titles, but my guess is they're going to be looking at both, because we'll have that big study that's coming up too that would benefit from. It's going to benefit from that titling. So look at titling.
So currently, the committee that they have chartered is academic titling. Other things we can try and clarify? Yes.
And one thing I remember from the ASA meeting too, in terms of the open records requests, was she really stressed that a lot of the requests, if people are being subject to open records requests, is really going to be based on the subject of the email first. Mm-hmm. So it's also just clear, what I took away from that is like have good, clear subject titles to kind of organize your business as well. Many
comedic assembly members poked good-natured fun at the provost regarding this and suggested the creation of many home servers. There was much laughter, and then the provost concluded her remarks.
With please don't.
Yes, with please don't. That was exactly what she said. Everybody laughed, and then the provost said, yeah, don't. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. So Erin I can't think about your name without singing.
Oh, all right.
Diversity Task Force update.
Am I standing in a good place?
Yeah.
Okay. A very brief update. We're finishing up our report. We're super excited to be almost done with our work. And we have a meeting scheduled with the executive committee, not next Monday, but the Monday after that, to talk both about, you know, the findings and recommendations, but also they have their own survey reports, you know, like the responses for the people that report that are under them, not just that report to them, but that are under their areas of responsibility. And we want to kind of help them figure out how to tackle that and do something meaningful with it. So yeah, we hope that the report will be done and shared with everybody by the end of the month. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
It's just a short question. So how do you intend to share it? Do you intend to have a session where we all get together and findings are shared, or will it just go out via email and
Pigeons.
pigeons?
Yes.
Pigeons are really great. I like that idea.
Or wolves.
No, pigeons.
Yes.
After your work is done with the task force, is there like another year's worth of task forcing, diversity task force of some sort, or is there like a follow-up?
I don't want to spoil the reports.
Oh, okay.
God, Jesse, getting ahead of things. No, I think we're probably going to post the report in a public place that everyone can access, and then like email out with a link to it or something like that.
Okay.
We might have decided, and I just don't remember.
Fair.
Yeah. If anyone has any suggestions or can think of any reasons why we might be excluding people by sending it out electronically, please say something. But I think that everyone should be able to get it. And that's usually how we share stuff, so. Any other questions? Yes, there is going to be work done in the coming year. Jeez.
Whoa.
No, it's done. We did diversity and inclusion. That's it, the report, and that's it. Nothing to be done going forward. Thanks.
Okay, so Julie's back up with Treasury.
Okay, so I am taking over the treasurer role from Ellen Jacks last year. We're still handling some transition things and bank account issues, but I can tell you that we usually share account balances. Okay. So we have a balance of $908.10 in our checking and $54.04 in our savings. And so we'll be using this funding throughout the year for programming and treats and things like that. If you would like to pay your dues before the high tea in the spring, you're totally welcome to. You can bring a check to me or cash to me. So, any questions?
Yeah, what's the dues amount?
What's the dues amount?
We generally did a recommendation of $15, but you can, there's never any set amount that you must give.
Okay.
The website says between 5.
Yeah, yeah. On the high tea form, we recommend $15, but yeah, pay as much or as little as you are comfortable with.
Question, why is checking and a savings? And you said savings at $54.
If I believe that in order to open an account, you have to have a certain amount in your savings, but most of it is in checking because that's where we deposit it and use it.
Okay, it didn't make much sense to have such a small amount in savings versus checking.
Right, right. Is that?
That was my understanding when I took over.
Okay.
You have to have both.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Report. So we're gonna have the programming committee come up. Looks like we're gonna have Steve Fry tell us about what's gonna happen and what you want to put your dues towards.
Yes, bagels and cream cheese. With $1,000 almost, we'll have great bagels. Really good cream cheese. I don't know. So you probably saw an email this morning that talked about a programming idea that we're putting into place starting this month, and we're calling it Eat, Talk, Run. And the idea is every third Friday of each month from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., so in the morning early before people really get going. Some people might get going even before that, but I don't. So we're going to start meeting, and there'll be food provided. And the idea behind the talk is that there'll be 3 5-minute presentations. And the 5-minute presentations can be about work-related things or about non-work-related things. And so just kind of casual TED Talks. No, not really TED Talks. That's too much pressure. But 5-minute just presentations. And it'd be great to have folks send either Craig or I ideas for those 5-minute talks, things that you could give a talk on, or something that you would like to hear a 5-minute presentation on. It'd be great to get those emails, get those ideas flowing. And the idea, and the run idea, is that you don't have to come to the entire hour. So we'll announce ahead of time what the talks are, when the talks are occurring, and people can show up for the entire hour, people can show up for just the 5-minute talk that they really care about. It's totally up to you. After the 5-minute talk, there might be a time for discussion if there are questions. 5 minutes of discussion maybe. If there's no questions, then people can just mingle amongst themselves. So as I said, food will be provided. This first meeting is going to be, the first time we do this will be October 16th. Again, 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. in Memorial Commons, room 460. As I mentioned already, for that one, bagels and cream cheese and probably coffee will be provided. And the 5-minute presentations, I'll be giving a 5-minute presentation on winter biking, if you're interested, at 8:35. Digitizing Shakespeare, Jesse's going to give a presentation on that at 8:55. And at 9:15, Craig is going to give a brief 5-minute talk on 3D printing. And so that'll be the first one. Some of the ideas that we've had folks mention already, best practices for mastering Office 365 in 5 minutes or less. Cloud storage options that people have access to. What are people using? What do people recommend? Travel policies, for instance, can you use the Big Ten rental car contract for personal rental car? Can you do that or not? We could answer that in a 5-minute presentation. I won't answer it now. I'll just leave you waiting. So that's the idea. And that'll be every month from this month, October, through May, is the idea. Any questions on that?
I also forgot to mention when I was giving my treasurer update, I'm not the only person also working on treasury. It's Craig Cook, so apologies for leaving you out.
Okay, so last item on our agenda is the Professional Concerns Committee, and Raina is going to talk about that. And again, if anyone wants to work on programming with Craig and Steve, because you guys also are still submitting other ideas for some larger events that we could possibly hold, and we're still going to have the high tea. Email either one of them if you'd like to be on the programming committee.
Good morning, everybody. So I just have a very brief update because we are just starting to get professionally concerned this year. So first I want to start off by thanking Ian Benton for his work last year as chair of the committee. So we really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Ian. And this year, the committee currently consists of myself as chair, Ian, Aaron Carrillo, and Josh Zimmerman are our current committee members, but there's always room for more. So as Jesse has been saying, there's a sign-up sheet for professional concerns right over here. We meet semi-regularly. If you can't make the meetings, that's totally fine. If you just want to be in the loop, that's fine too. Please feel free to sign up or let me know if you have any questions. So right now, our main activity as a committee is continuing the listening sessions that we started last year because we feel we're serving fairly effectively in that role, hearing what people are concerned about, hearing what questions people have as there are so many changes happening at the university. So we'll be holding those. I've got them set up to happen about every 2-ish weeks through January at this point. And the next one is going to be at Steenbach Library upstairs in room 340 on the 12th of October at 3 p.m. I'll be sending out a reminder email with the schedule for all of the sessions through January. If you come to a session, anonymity and confidentiality will be preserved. There will be 2 members of the Professional Concerns Committee there who will be taking copious notes on whatever it is you would like to ask, like to say, and we'll be compiling that into a document to share with administration, to share with the wider library community, but again, with an eye toward anonymity and respecting confidentiality. let me see, what else do I want to add? So really, like I said, a short update, and we're really focusing this year on using professional concerns as a way to hear from colleagues and reflect on where we and where Librarians Assembly Steering should focus our energies. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And if any programming ideas or anything emerge from the listening sessions or from feedback from others, we would pursue those and see like where would be a good place to put those and support those. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Question is, there was money through the administration, right, for some things? Is
Yes.
anything happening with that this year, or have people applied?
That was started out under the auspices of the Professional Concerns Committee, and then it became its own entity. Ian?
I was actually hoping to get a plug in for that anyway, so thank
Do
you.
it.
Thank you very much for the segue.
You know, I know you went to a great effort to get it set up.
Sure. How about we can let Raina...
I had nothing else to say.
Okay,
Come on up.
if there's no
Come
other
on up.
questions. Okay.
The only other thing I wanted to say is Teaching and Learning Forum is over at Memorial at 1 o'clock. Please come. It's going to be super fun. We're going to talk about feminist pedagogy. All right, get out of the way.
So the group that Judith was mentioning is the Professional Development Programming Allowances group. It came out 2 years ago of an effort by Librarians Assembly, but is not part of Librarians Assembly. It's just hanging out in HR. We talk with Nancy a lot. It's cool. So the Professional Development Programming Allowances are available to people who would like to assemble programs here on campus. The idea behind this pot of money is that it should support big bang for buck sorts of things. These aren't professional development opportunities for one person, they're professional development opportunities for many people. So if there is a program that you have in mind that you think is interesting, it sort of takes and puts more impetus, but also more ability for individuals to create programming opportunities for their colleagues. Let me talk about concrete things instead of that amorphous, weird description. Last semester, professional development programming allowances were granted to the reference retreat folks, who used them to pay an honorarium for their speaker, who came and I believe spoke about mindfulness and practice in public service. We funded a variety of webinars that ranged from assisting music catalogers to understanding the new cataloging system for like original scores, etc. The space planning series of webinars was funded by the Professional Development Programming Allowances folks. And another big one was, I believe we funded an institutional site license to, any PDPA people remember? It was a site license to a training resource that supported a variety of people in technical services, especially document delivery folks. It may have been an Iliad, like everything you need to know about Iliad and making Iliad go. I can't remember for certain off the top of my head. But the commonality is that they support a variety of people. Really, really great proposals for allowances support people across different departments and have the broadest possible impact. But it is, of course, not limited to only webinars. It is not limited to only honorariums. It's really not limited to any specific type of program. The limitations that exist on the funds for legal reasons, we can't fund food, so we can't provide food for a meeting. We also can't fund individual things. So that would be individual professional development, say reimbursement on a class. We certainly can't do anything with travel. We wouldn't be able to fund a webinar if you were the only person who's going to watch it. So that's, if any of you have questions or would like to know more about professional development program allowances, or by all means.
Just on the webinar, do you need to say, like, there's at least 3 of us maybe going, or is there a kind of stated minimum for the committee to say, yes, we will fund that webinar?
We've not established a stated minimum to the number of people that a program has to hit.
Okay.
What we have is a rubric. We have an evaluation rubric that takes any given program and evaluates it on, I think, 5 different axes, and those include the number of people that it's hitting, and that's not just a like 5 people, 6 people. There's also the consideration of how many people across how many different departments. There's we look at, is this being proposed by people who work in different departments? I mean, is this program already demonstrating interdepartmental communication and cooperation to acquire a skill set? We look at the presence of an assessment plan to examine how well the program is going to demonstrate that the program has impact. So I could certainly provide a glimpse at the rubric. It's actually all available to view on the PDPA site, which is on library.wissteady.edu/staff under the admin section. You can see the page for PDPA. All of our documentation is in there, though we're still waiting on access to be able to edit the page. So it's a little bit rickety right now. I gotta do a little house cleaning. But the much shorter story is that if you have a proposal that you would like to see about getting funded, you can email anybody who's on the committee. You can certainly send to me. And we will evaluate your proposal as quickly as we can and get you word of whether we can support you or not.
Yes, my question is, how much lead time do you need? Because sometimes with webinars, they announce it, we have like 2 or 3 weeks until it's up. So how do you get something like that?
Mm-hmm. We're trying to, we've changed the way we do things to try and remain even more flexible. We were asking people to do everything uniformly through a web submission, and that was causing some lag. So now we're just asking people to directly email committee members so that we can jump on things really quick. And we've funded things with like 3-month turnarounds. We've also funded things with 1-week turnarounds. So the quicker it is, the more, it's not like we won't fund it. We just need to make sure that you indicate that, oh, this is coming up really fast. Can you take a look at this quick? And then we'll just try and take care of our business of evaluation by email rather than waiting for a committee meeting.
Let's just say that somebody doesn't have an idea fleshed out, they don't have people to attend or anything, they just have an idea. Mm-hmm. Are they welcome to contact you for more information?
Oh, heck yeah. Thank you. So PDPA, our little shortening, we don't have, we're not the people who make the programs. We're just evaluating everybody else's suggestions. But even though we're not making things from scratch and handing them out to all of you, we want to help you. If you have a notion of something that you'd like to get done, but you're not sure who your partners might be, or you're not sure what other resources might be available, we would love to connect you with those resources. And in fact, we're trying to work on a resource page right now that brings together sorts of clearinghouses for professional development activities. I mean, webinars, how many different professional organizations are there that are throwing different webinars on different topics, or opportunities through OHR on campus to go or bring a speaker in. So we're going to try and bring more things together, but I would be careful to say that given the committee and what the committee's purview and charter is to kind of help people get money when they want money, we're not really in the position where we're going to create programming ourselves as much as we do want to help people bring their programming into reality in whatever ways we can.
But hey, professional concerns would totally do that.
Yeah.
If somebody has an idea, has a need, and it falls under the general heading of professional development, professional concerns, that is something that you can bring to us and put you in touch with the right people who might include PDPA to get some money.
That's one good reason why PDPA is not part of Librarians Assembly. It's not part of anybody but HR, straight under Nancy, so that there's no conflict of interest about what money's going where or whose money is it. It's just meant to be for all those folks out there who don't have the contacts, knowledge, and ability to find funding for these opportunities on their own, because there's a wide variety of different experience with getting that support. This is meant to be a uniform path for everybody, regardless of their experience in the system. All right, so yeah, come talk with us.
Great. Are there any other questions for professional concerns?
Now that we've heard that.
Yes. I realized I kind of skittered. All right, thank you.
Okay, I think we're good. So that was the last item on our agenda. So a couple of reminders. We've got the first Eat Talk run next Friday, which is October 16th. The one after that's November 20th. All right, so this again is going to be the third Friday of every month, 8:30 in the morning. And then our next Librarians Assembly business meeting is December 2nd. location to be determined, but we might take it back east. And there's donut holes, so if those end up in a location on campus, we'll email you about it. But we'll also quiz you about what you watched, so before you get a donut hole. Does anyone else have anything to add or an item they'd like to discuss? We do still have another 15 minutes. Otherwise, I think we're good. Okay, thanks.
Slow food.
Slow food. Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, slow food. In the garden for lunch. Have some slow food. Support the students.
Or a donut.
Or a fast donut.
Do you want to ride back or?
I have my car.
I think it's inexpensive. I think you just, it's okay at the door kind of thing. Yeah.